Somewhere in your kitchen right now, there is probably bread. It's so ordinary you don't think about it. Flour, water, heat. That's it. And yet humans have been making some version of this exact food for so long that the timeline doesn't even make sense at first. Because bread is older than farming. Let that sit for a second. Not bread showed up once we started growing wheat. Bread came first before the fields, before the plows, before anyone had planted a single seed on purpose. Which raises an uncomfortable question. For the story you were probably taught in school. What if farming didn't create bread? What if bread helped create farming? For decades, the standard timeline in textbooks went like this. Humans settle down. Humans start farming grain. Then eventually someone figures out bread. Clean, logical, and order. In 2018, a group of archaeologists dug up something that broke that order completely. In northeastern Jordan, in a stretch of land called the Black Desert, researchers excavated a site known as Shubeko 1. It belonged to the Natufians, a hunter-gatherer culture who lived in the region thousands of years before agriculture existed anywhere nearby. Inside two ancient fireplaces, archaeologists found 24 small charred lumps. At first glance, nothing dramatic. Under analysis, they turned out to be the remains of bread. Radiocarbon dating put them at roughly 14,400 years old. That's more than 4,000 years before agriculture developed in that same region. A team from the University of Copenhagen, University College London, and Cambridge published the findings in the journal PNAS in 2018, led by archaeobotanist Amaya Arons-Otegi. And the implication was immediate. People weren't farming yet. They were still hunting and gathering, and they were already baking bread. So what exactly were they eating? Not anything close to a loaf from your grocery store. The researchers identified wild ancestors of cereals like einkorn, barley and oat, along with root foods like club rush tubers. These weren't domesticated crops. They were wild plants gathered by hand one stalk at a time. And the process wasn't simple either. The grains had to be ground down, sieved to remove husks and debris, then kneaded into a rough dough before being cooked, likely as a flat, unleavened bread pressed directly onto hot stone. Every single step took real labor with no guaranteed payoff, which raises the obvious question. If it took that much effort for a food with barely more calories than the raw grain itself, why bother? One leading theory among researchers is that this early bread wasn't a daily staple at all. It may have been closer to a rare valued food, prepared for special occasions, precisely because of how much work it demanded. For thousands of years after that, bread stayed flat, dense, and simple. The next major shift happened, most historians agree, in ancient Egypt. Though here it's worth being honest about something. Sources disagree noticeably on exactly when. Some point to evidence, as early as 6000 BCE. Others place the true turning point closer to 3000 BCE or even later. Nobody has managed to pin it down precisely, so treat any single date you hear with a little suspicion, including this one. What most historians do agree on is the mechanism, and it wasn't planned at all. Somewhere in ancient Egypt, a mixture of flour and water was almost certainly left sitting, out longer than intended. Wild yeast floating invisibly in the air, especially thick around any place already brewing beer, settled into the dough and began to feed. The next day, instead of a flat, dense mixture, someone found something that had visibly risen. Egyptian bread and Egyptian beer are often described as twin discoveries for exactly this reason. Same organism, same basic process, two completely different results, both stumbled into by accident. Nobody at the time understood why it worked. That understanding took an almost absurdly long time to arrive. In 1680, a Dutch scientist named Antony van Leeuwenhoek looked at yeast under a microscope for the first time in history and saw the individual cells. But it took until 1857, nearly 2 centuries later, for French chemist Louis Pasteur to actually prove that living yeast organisms, not some abstract chemical reaction, were what caused fermentation in the first place. Humans used yeast correctly and successfully for thousands of years before anyone actually understood what it was. Once bread could reliably rise, it stopped being a rare luxury and started becoming something closer to a foundation. Egyptian tomb paintings repeatedly depict bakeries in full operation, grinding, kneading, loaves lined up in rows. Bread wasn't just eaten. In parts of the ancient world, it functioned as currency, as wages, as a form of religious offering. An entire civilization's daily rhythm in some regions quite literally revolved around getting grain, milling it, and turning it into something you could hand to another person as payment. Now, jump forward almost 14,000 years, past empires, past mills, past centuries of the exact same basic loaf, to a jeweler in Iowa named Otto Rohwedder. In 1912, Rohwedder became mildly obsessed with an idea that sounds almost too small to matter. What if bread came pre-sliced? He spent years building a machine to do it. In 1917, a fire destroyed his factory along with his prototype and blueprints. Most people would have stopped there. He didn't. He rebuilt the entire machine from scratch. On July 7, 1928, a bakery in Chillicothe, Missouri, became the first in the world to sell commercially pre-sliced bread. Within 2 weeks, sales at that single bakery reportedly jumped by around 2,000%. By 1933, an estimated 80% of all bread sold in the United States was pre-sliced. The now famous phrase that the greatest thing since sliced bread comes directly us from the advertising language used to sell this exact product. And here's the strangest footnote in the entire story. During World War II, the US government actually banned sliced bread nationally for about 47 days, largely to conserve wax paper and steel used in the slicing machines. The public backlash was so immediate and so intense that the ban was reversed within 2 months. People had gone in under 15 years, from not having pre-sliced bread at all to being furious when the government briefly took it away. Here's what's strange though, once you step back across the entire timeline, we usually tell the story of human progress as something that starts with farming, then leads to surplus, then leads to complex society, then eventually, almost as an afterthought, leads to things like bread. The Chewbacca discovery quietly challenges that whole order. It suggests that wanting bread, specifically badly enough for long, enough might be one of the actual reasons people eventually decided wild grain wasn't good enough anymore and started deliberately growing more of it. Not a side effect of civilization, possibly one of its causes. So the next time you're holding a completely ordinary slice of bread, you're not just holding breakfast. You're holding the end result of a 40 to 400-year-old habit that predates farming, predates cities, predates almost everything we usually associate with the beginning of civilization. Somebody in a fireplace, in the desert ground wild grain, by hand long before they had any reason to believe it would change anything. It changed everything. If a slice of toast just became one of the oldest surviving human habits you know about, this channel exists for exactly that. Subscribe if you want more of your assumptions quietly taken apart.